Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Please feel free to hit the like, share, and subscribe while we wait for the room to fill up. And please enjoy our introduction. Hi, everyone. Keith here. Hoping everybody's got a good time going on today. Friday, kind of drizzly around here, but still a good day. I'm still alive. Basically wanted to talk to everybody today. As you saw the caption, who's your daddy?
And I don't like the word rule.
Well, if we don't like the word rule, let's call it leadership.
Leadership in government is political power, and political power is an official form of antagonizing the people.
What magazine did you say he edits? A commentary on current events. Pardon me. But
Basically wanted to talk to you today about better choices.
Your final thoughts before we wrap it up. I let myself get pulled into another loop cod event again. And the more we change, the more we stay the same. Relapse is part of recovery. What are you going to do? I might do heroin tonight too, just kind of really round out the experience. I'm kidding, people. Go on, Wizard.
I learned that sometimes if you just learn to change and adapt yourself. I think it went very well for me tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed that since I have these issues. One day they'll be resolved. Until then, I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. So may God bless you and have a good night.
Well, fuck you then. Guy's going to tell me he fucking loves me and doesn't care if I love him back. Who hurt you? All right, we'll see you later. Get the hell out of here.
Oh, both my mommy and my dad.
Yeah, right. That's what it comes down to. I love these folks who make these determinations, all the clinical psychiatrists online all of a sudden. And I go, you're really going to do this evaluation of me being from a trauma-filled reality or home? I go, yeah, I might be an extreme example, but hi, I'm like your best mirror.
Here, Capernaum Dominus. My brothers across the world search for brave men to spare and recruit, but our power prohibits those very efforts. For what sane person would stand up to the Roman Empire?
I am sane.
Yes, but a very different kind of sane.
When the child is born, the network will be switching over to a 2-channel format to chronicle both lives.
What happens when Truman and the baby are both on camera together?
There will simply be duplicate coverage.
Excuse me, sorry about that. If you guys are familiar with proper instruction motivates people, I urge you to go over there. Paul Unslave, boots on the ground, trying to help sort out what's wrong with the hearts and minds of men today. And if you're familiar with my recent goings on, we've got an issue with the jury summons where they summoned me for jury duty a couple years ago, and I didn't know it. I never received anything. So they turned around and put a bench warrant out. When I realized they put a bench warrant out, I went down to court and explained to them that though they provided diligent service, which means they gave it to the servicer, which is the United States Postal Service, as the registered agent. Okay, so they did their diligent service, but it wasn't received because there was no receivership. Okay, so in that, their presumption is that I'm subject to their jurisdiction, which I'm not. I know this, and so this is what I need to express. So I went to the court and I expressed to them that I never received anything, therefore they didn't have personal jurisdiction to issue a bench warrant. So the judge at the time said, okay, we'll dismiss the bench warrant and we'll send you a new summons, and asked me for the address. So when I gave him the address, I gave him the specific 4-line address to send it. And instead of sending it to the 4-line address, they sent it to the national format, which is the all uppercase name with the street name and number and the city, state, and zip. That is not the information I gave them. So they converted the information I gave them. Can't do that. Bad mistake, particularly when it comes to somebody like me, paying attention to the important details. So instead of sending me a summons, like they said, and instead of dismissing the bench warrant, like they said, on the docket, they didn't post the dismissal of the bench warrant. They posted a continuance saying that the court had somehow magically obtained personal jurisdiction without a personal jurisdiction waiver. And this is part of the process of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, rule number 4. When they send you a summons to appear in court, they're supposed to send you a waiver for personal jurisdiction, so that the court, in order to obtain personal jurisdiction, the plaintiff must first serve the defendant in the state in which the court sits. And this is the point where I pointed out I didn't get a receivership. There was no receive. I didn't receipt. Okay. The second part is that the defendant needs to voluntarily appear in court. And this is because he first fills out the waiver of personal jurisdiction so that he can appear in court voluntarily. It is a voluntary action. And equity does not aid a volunteer. So that tells us we are not in a court of equity. So when they sent me the supposed summons in the mail, it wasn't a summons. It was a postcard that directed me to fill out the summons online. So when I got online and started filling out the summons, of course, they don't give you the availability of a 4-line address. And then they ask you for a phone number. I can't do that. I'm not going to give you extra information you don't need so you can keep track of me. So I called them up and say, hey, listen, you're asking me for information that's not required. And it says that I can't go any further unless I give that information. The phone number. So online, they are demanding a phone number that's not required. See, the service thing is through the Postal Service, United States Postal Service. Again, they're the registered agent. That's why it has to be through them, is because they're the actual trustee. The phone company is not a trustee for the courts, though they do play a part in the public trust and are public servants of a public trust. It is not the same trustee position. Therefore, the phone number is not required. It's the address that they're looking for. So again, I remind you that 19 CFR 149.3 says that the buyer, seller, or the shipped party in all commercial transactions, and these administrative courts not being courts of equity, are courts of commerce. They're producing commercial transactions. So therefore, the buyer, the seller, or the shipped party can all three use a number in lieu of the name and address. This is a very important point when it comes to distinguishing that address and why you can give a number in lieu of the name and address. And that again is because the Postal Service is the trustee. They are the ones that hold the records for the judicial determinations that are never made. It's a presumption. So then they sent me an actual summons. But again, they failed to send a waiver with the summons. Again, a violation of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 4. They're supposed to send a waiver with the summons. Failure to do so is incomplete or a simulation of a process. That's it. So then they sent me this summons. Let me see where it's at here. What did I do with it? I have it somewhere. Let me see. Give me just 1 second, folks. I have too many files to keep track of, it seems. Okay. Get rid of my background here so you guys can see this. I'll show you my firsthand work. As I've shown many times on my Facebook, the various different what I call abatements to things that I receive in the mail, where I just write on the envelope and then send it back. Here this time, because it's jury duty, and wanting to use this as my entrance into equity, because I know they're going to try to force the jury summons. Okay. What I did was I took their jury summons, and you can see I just wrote on the summons itself, and I gave all kinds of explanatory notes, and you'll see there's some in red ink, particularly the bottom where it says directive, extinguish debt, 11/2/2023, Keith, benefactor. And as we see here, according to the codes, legal tender is a negotiable instrument. In negotiating instruments, we think about peace treaties and negotiations like that, where indemnification and immunity and amnesty and armistices are developed. In other words, the peace between the two. On the bottom, this is where the signature sits. Instead of giving a signature, I gave them information. And notice right here here it says, see attached, variances from categorical pretreatment standards that are fundamentally different in nature. A very simple comment. In the interest of the United States, for the account of the United States. And under Iowa Code 633A 1102.11, instrument means assigned writing. And that's trust code in Iowa. So this document that has a title on it is a document of title in trust for a commercial receipt. Very important language. And I've got a picture of this on my, or no, I did not put a picture of this on my Facebook because it's got personal information. But I will eventually do something on this so I have certain information firsthand that is supplement and superior to the information that's been entered in on the record so far. And so what I did was I gave them first a notice with that along with a statement of facts. And you'll see I've got my own letterhead, and right there, that number, that's my own self-created number, and I use an epoch converter. And what that does is it converts the actual time into an epoch time. So instead of having 10:42 a.m. on 11/23 of 2023, it's going to give me this number instead. So you can enter that number back into an epoch counter, and it will tell you when this was created. So it's a timestamp. So I gave them that along with a statement of facts, and I'm going to read this stuff, but I'm not going to read them from here. I'm going to put them up on screen so you can see the actual writings. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my latest notice. And I'm going to start out with my index. Let's pull up index. Where did it go? Where did it go? Well, I don't see where it went. Oh, well, I guess I'll just read it here then. It's just an index list. Certiorari documents list. And a certiorari is a error statement. And what we're doing is we're going to present it to the Supreme Court of Iowa because the administrative district court here in Black Hawk County has already sent me a second notice saying that they're not giving me exception for jury duty, despite the fact that I told them that there's an impossibility that I'm not qualified to serve on a jury because I'm not a United States citizen and I'm not a resident by those definitions. So on the certiorari documents list, I've got the certiorari to the Iowa Supreme Court. And then I've got form AO 430, and I'll show you that here. That's a administrative documentation for the U.S. Supreme Court. On that form, there's information you can put in there to allow them to see that you're trying to enter equity. You can assign the magistrate as a chancellor, and you can name the type of court. So it's a court of equity, and the judge is named chancellor. The next thing is the state vital statistics jurisdiction. There's two charts we'll show you real quick. And then there's a jury summons lacking a waiver. That's the jury summons that I just showed you I filled out. And there's a lack of a waiver for personal jurisdiction. And then I got my first responsive notice, the one that I gave them first time in writing. And then a statement of facts that says I'm not a United States citizen, I'm not a resident, I've never registered to vote, da da da. Just a few statements that they cannot rebut. They have to be able to bring forth a record that says I am a registered voter, that I am a United States citizen, that I am a resident, and I've never registered to vote. I can't be a United States citizen if I wasn't born in the United States and there's no birth registration for the United States. Therefore, they don't have any proof that I am a United States citizen unless it's me saying that I'm a United States citizen. Same with resident of the state of Iowa. Check your state codes. Resident determination. For Iowa, the resident determination is for income tax purposes. So the intent of the definition of resident itself is for income tax purposes. I ain't had a job for 7 years. I don't have any income. Therefore, I do not qualify as a resident for income tax purposes, specifically being income tax purposes for the state, meaning I have to have an oath of office and a license to do so. I have none. So they're going to have a very hard time trying to prove anything they're trying to assert. And then I've got notice of denial despite notice of lack of qualifications. That's where the little notice that they sent me saying they weren't going to allow me the exception for not being a United States citizen or a United States resident. That shows that they themselves are willing to trade with an enemy, because it doesn't matter what kind of identification you tell them about or tell them you don't have. They're going to assume anyway that you are subject to their courts, and they're going to do business with you, whether you like it or not. And that's false. The fuck you are. Then I've got the responsive notice to the denial, and then I've got my statement of separation that I wrote up 3 years ago, and it's been posted on my site. Then the initial jury summons issue of bench warrant. So I showed you the issuance of the jury summons. Let's go through and do the case file first. So let's look up Iowa courts online. Case search. Trial case search on Keith Little. Let me pull up screen share. And here you can see we're on iowacourts.state.ia.us/ESAWEB app trial simp frame. Okay, and this is, you're going to have something like this in every state where you can look up your own files or look up the criminal records of anybody. And what we're looking at here is you see the top, there's name search. Notice it says last and then /firm. So what they're doing is under grammar, English grammar says that slash says that you can substitute one for the other. So what they're doing is they're substituting the firm name for the last name. Now, this is something I never knew about until I got this financial index, and it showed right on it that they're using the firm name. Now, the firm name implies that you are organized under the laws of the United States as a corporate entity. And that's the 12 USC 614, where you have to communicate with the Federal Reserve and give them a notice of a letter of intent to organize in your developing stages, and that you have a board of directors that can then hire an attorney to make a representation in those administrative courts. Without that, you're not qualified to enter those courts. And therefore, the data elements entered are in error in all cases. So when we fill it out, click I'm not a robot, hit search, and look, it brings up my record. There's 93 cases on here. This is the electronic record. Now, some of these are going to have, like this one here, This says, this is Buchanan County citation, and this is not somewhere where I live. And notice it says Keith D. Little, not Keith O. Little. Okay, so that particular record is not mine. And then you see Keith R, Keith R, Keith R. But notice the first name and last name are still the same. So there's more than one Keith Little. And the middle name does make a difference when it comes to record keeping. And then you see Keith William, you see Keith Antoine, Keith Cornell. So there's a lot of different Keith Littles. Okay. But these all here that say Keith Orland, these are all mine. Okay. Supposedly. They're in reference to me. Okay. So when we look at this one here, this is in the matter of the jury service of Keith Little. This is the bench warrant that I was talking about that they issued for failure to appear for jury duty when they didn't have receivership upon their diligent service. So let's look at it. Under summary, it says in the matter of the jury service of Keith Little, and then it's got case number. And then it says originating county, Black Hawk, created 12/21 of 2021. Disposition status. In other words, where they disposition somebody when they take you off your square or something. It says no disposition records were found. When we look at the financials, look at that. There's zero. It's across the board. Zeros. So there is zero value so far. When we look at the long title, and notice under summary, there's no citation number here. It doesn't even say citation. It says case. When we go to financials, it says citation number. There's no citation number. When we go to long title, there's a citation number. There's no citation number. Okay. And when we say long title, no long title found. As we saw in that document, that there is a title. It's all uppercase. And this here being a short title, Keith Little, that does seem to be a long title. And it says long title in the matter of the jury service, Keith Little. And yet it says no long title found. How is this? Okay. So there's a lot of creation of questions that you need to start thinking about. Let's look at bonds. Bonds posted. No bonds found. Really? Well, how come then when we look at filings, it says order to issue public bench warrant. Comments, bond set at $350. Now, these people had no financial communications, no citation communications, no long title communications, no summary communications, and zero value across the board, yet they set $350 value. Now, remember the disposition? Remember it said there was no disposition? Up here in this left-hand corner, see where it says criminal charges, disposition. So when we click on that, guess what it's going to do? It's going to bring us to criminal charges. Look, charges, disposition, sentences in the matter of jury service of Keith Little, no citation number, of course, no charges found. So we find a lot of issues with just their matter of working with this stuff to begin with. So like I said, once I realized there was a bench warrant out, I went down to court. Now we're going to go back to this this case, this docket stuff, and I'm going to show you in their docket what they did and the order. So let's take a look at it. When it comes to the filings, see these numbers over here on the left? It says D0001. Right here at the bottom left-hand corner, it says application, initiate, contempt, show cause, civil. Failure to appear for jury duty. So they're making a claim that I have a duty, and they can't even spell jury right. Duty. Okay? Yes, that's right. It says J-U-T-Y, duty. Jury duty is not spelled J-U-T-Y. It's spelled J-U-R-Y. So I have to question the competency of these people. It's a must. So then the second thing on the docket was order to show cause. The third thing on the docket was return of service, diligent search. Now that's got a blue line highlighted link. So let's click on it, see what happens. It says Iowa Courts Online Electronic Docket Record Search. It's looking for a username. I'm not registered because I didn't pledge anything to these people on the electronic form or in the electronic form. And they are not allowed to convert that paperwork into the electronic form and say all of a sudden that now I'm a registered user. No, I'm not. Okay. So it goes to a registered user in a usufruct system. So docket number 4 was order to issue public bench warrant. Docket number 5 was public bench warrant. This is where I went into the courts after I found out they issued a public bench warrant. There were these 4 items on the docket. Then I went in, and that's when I told them that I didn't receive anything. So they agreed that they would dismiss the bench warrant. However, they did not do so that first day. They waited. Okay. See this here? This is an order for continuance. This is the date that I went into that court, 9/27/2023. And they did not post. They posted this, the order for continuance. Like I said, they're claiming that they got personal jurisdiction, and they can't. It's impossible for them to get personal jurisdiction over myself. So I went in on the 27th. They posted docket number 6 first and didn't post anything on the public bench warrant dismissal. And not only did they not post it, but they only made a note, public hyphen or slash bench warrant. Okay. They didn't post anything about a dismissal. They just posted a note that there's something to do with the bench warrant. Okay. So this is proof in my eyes that they did not dismiss it, that bench warrant was issued in my name, and they are using it to try to force me into these courts because they have already initiated. They have already initiated a commercial event in their name and want me to sign up on their docket for it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Okay. So the next thing. Yeah, Judge Judy duty. So the next thing. So we've got certiorari. Okay, that was the dockets. That's the last thing. And I'll put these in reverse order. And then I've got my statement of separation. So let's look at the statement of separation. This is the one I was telling you about I did 3 years ago. And so we'll take you. See if we can find it on my site. I'm pretty sure. I think it's in notices. see here. There we go. This is my statement of separation that I've had on my site for a number of years. And this is my site, wordwisewarrior.art. It says statement of separation. I, formerly known as Keith Orland Minaj Conrady Little, and that's because I have been adopted. So I placed my first biological name there and then the legal adoption name with a hyphen showing that I accept both. And now known by El Hotep II Peril. This is my pen name. This is the same thing that Samuel Clemens did in regards to being an author. He then issued to the world a new pen name that he would be known by. This is the same thing. It's all we're doing here. It's not a legal determination. It's a preference. And you can write under any name you want. You get to create. So therefore, you get to create your own pen name too. Samuel Clemens wrote his books as Mark Twain for the benefit of the public by naming other third-person characters in those writings. First person, second person, third person. Do hereby make the following statement of separation from employment of trade or business, the performance of functions of public office, otherwise known as performing the functions of public office within or without the Department of State of the United States, information agencies, and instrumental constructs. As used herein, the term employment includes all periods of assignment or detail, as well as any periods temporary, part-time, or intermittent employment therein. And the term separation includes any suspension for any period in excess of 30 days, retirement from commercial activities, entry into disability or pension programs of which benefits are guaranteed for prior consideration, whether duly paid or as contributions. I have in my possession only documents instruments, / instruments, which I am allowed through prior consideration for actual benefit by and through equal rights among the laws. Article 1, Section 4. Article 1, Section 4. Article 1, Section 4. I shall not publish nor reveal to any person any classified or administratively controlled information of which I have knowledge, or any further information transmitted to myself in confidence in the course of any performance, contracts, leases, bids, awards, rewards, etc., except as may be authorized by the officials of the employing department or agency empowered and conferred by federal executive order granting permission to disclose such information. I hereby advise all principals, agents, actors, participants, performers, interlopers, interveners, officious intermeddlers, etc., to heed the criminal penalties related to United States government records, information, and the use thereof as a matter of national importance. Violations often committed, but not limited to, by officials, officers of the court, and participating agents not learned in law is 18 U.S. Code sections as follows. 641, public money, property records. 793, gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information. If they're going to name you a defendant, then the information is, in fact, defense information. 794, gathering or delivering information to aid foreign government. I am a self-governing body of the Almighty God, and they are a foreign government. 798, disclosure of classified information. 952, diplomatic codes and correspondence. 1905, disclosure of confidential information generally. 2071, concealment, removal, or mutilation generally. Includes but not limited to 42 U.S. Code, that's Social Security. Section as follows. 2272, violation of specific sections. 2273, violation of sections generally. 2274, communication of restricted data. 2275, receipt of restricted data. 2276, tampering with restricted data. 2277, disclosure of restricted data. These violations lay wide the civil process of 42 U.S. Code 1983, civil action for deprivation of rights. 50 U.S. Code 783, sections as followed. 783B, receipt of or attempt to receive by foreign agent or member of communist organization classified information. I want to take a minute to talk about that communist. See, anybody that comes up to me and demands that I provide identification that they can't is either a fucking babbling idiot or they're a communist. No two ways about it. You either recognize my father, and therefore you recognize me. You recognize me, and therefore you recognize my father as an image and likeness. And you don't need ID, or you're a fucking babbling idiot looking for an ID that doesn't exist. It does not exist. You find it, because I ain't got it on me. You can search me up and down. I don't have identification. So let's get back to it. 783D talks about limitation period. In regards to employees, principals, agents, actors, performers, participants, etc., these restrictions are consistent with and do not supersede, conflict with, or otherwise alter the obligation, rights, or liabilities of said persons created by Executive Order 12356, Section 7211 of Title 5 of the U.S. Code governing disclosure to Congress. Section 1034 of Title 10 of the U.S. Code as amended by the Military Whistleblower Act governing disclosure of illegality, waste, fraud, abuse, or public health or safety threats. Don't you fucking threaten me again. The Intelligence Identity Protection Act of 1982, 50 U.S. Code 421 et sequential, governing disclosures that could expose confidential government agents. Again, if you're not agreeing with the fact that those codes don't apply to me, and you're going to insist on exposing confidential information. You may be exposing confidential information of a government agent. I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be me, but I know if you're trying to do it to me, you might be trying to do it to a government agent that is confidential. And that puts me at wonder why you think you have so much fucking authority. And the statute that protect against disclosures that may compromise the national security, including but not limited to Section 641, 793, 794, 798, and 952 of Title 18 of the U.S. Code and Section 4B of the Subversive Activities Act of 1950. That's that 50 U.S. Code 783B. The definitions, requirements, obligations, rights, sanctions, and liabilities created by said executive order and listed statutes are incorporated into this agreement and are controlling. I reaffirm that the provisions of the espionage laws have been made available to said principals, agents, actors, performers, participants, etc. I have returned all necessary classified information to proper authorities, that I will not transmit, communicate, convey classified information to any unauthorized person or organizations, that I will promptly report to the Federal Bureau of Investigations any attempt by unauthorized persons to solicit classified information with or without a security debriefing. And why would I contact the Federal Bureau of Investigations? Because they're the ones that control the Interstate Identification Index. The Interstate Identification Index. So again, if you want that identification, you have to speak to other people that are well-informed government agents. And I guess you don't want to expose their confidentiality, do you? Yet you're trying to expose me as an agent of the same. You ignorant fucks. I'm aware that Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 1001, provides criminal penalties for knowingly and willingly falsifying or concealing material facts in statement or document submitted to any agency of the United States government concerning a matter under its jurisdiction. So while they're telling me that I have to submit an ID, and I don't have an ID, they're telling me that I am still subject to their courts, even though I don't have that information. So are they willingly trying to falsify material facts and statements? Yes. This is a blatant attempt to falsify information based upon a claim that I said I am not a United States citizen. I am not a resident. I have never registered to vote. And those are prerequisites, requirements to serve on a jury in all 50 states. That is the material evidence they are trying to falsify. You've been given notice. Please act accordingly. Law of principle applies. Notice to principal is notice to agent. Notice to agent is notice to principal. If you're going to act as an agent, or as an agent for the principal, then you're going to be treated as the principal. It's the way the law operates. Okay, so the next one is the original jury duty notice to jury duty failure to appear notice. It's a responsive notice. And this was after I appeared in court and they sent me the summons through the mail. And I wrote all over it and I added this to it along with a statement of facts that I'll read after it. And that's the one where I told them about the identification, that I'm not a U.S. citizen, not a resident. So as we read through this, let me first show you. It's on my letterhead. So what you're seeing here is just without the letterhead. Same thing though. You notice it's got the epoch number on there. It says, as an introduction to our research over the last 7 years, we start with that which inspires our living souls. Jeremiah 51:31. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to shew the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. In other words, at this end, I'm not going to babble anymore. The people at the other end, these court administrators and these clerks and everybody that want to continue babbling, I am going to expose them for the babblers that they are, for the idiots that they pose themselves to be. Israelites are of Hebrew origins, as the 12 tribes as a whole of God. Judaism is the extension of the house of Judah as the voice of the 12 tribes, the Lion of Judah. That's why it's the roar. Praise literally being the very meaning of the name. Judah means to praise. A part of the birthright demand spelled out in the names of the 12 sons of Jacob, renamed Israel. King James Version, Isaiah 43:1 and 44:5. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. One shall say, I am the Lord's. One shall call himself by the name Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Lord, and surname himself by the name Israel. The rise of Judaism as a polity extends from Daniel as a tutor to Cyrus and several kings before him. Cyrus, as king of Persia and Media, was the one that freed the Israelites after conquering Babylon. And notice the king of Persia in Media, this is the origin in polity of the person in Media. This is the beginning of the public accounting. All three Abrahamic religions, Abraham renamed Abraham, Abe, Ab, God, Raham, glory be to God, are based on the same promise and oath as recognized in all three. Specifically, Christianity, a King James Version of the Bible, Hebrews 6 verses 14 through 20. I suggest you read that. Hebrews 6 verses 14 through 20. It tells you how you are a witness with your Father which art in heaven, and you need not even Jesus. This is based on his promise, the original promise and the original oath that he gave, that he could only give unto himself because there was no one else to give it to. A trust shall not fail for want of trustee. You can be the benefactor of the grantor without a trustee. Read it. Similarly versed in the Torah and the Quran, all three rooted in the Israelite legacy of birthright. In fact, all three seem to agree in the same God. For the true value in voice to be paramount is to sing praise under the providence of grace of our higher power. We all, for the most part anyway, seem to strive to those ends, meeting our Maker. If that Maker is omnipresent in our reality, then what does it take to meet? King James Version of the Bible, Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Was there a meeting already had? Before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. This sanctification and ordination is when he wrote his word of love on your heart with the index finger of his right hand. However, even without the spoken or written word, equity exists. This is the concept that without law, there still remains equity. This is because the breath of life itself is an act of God, and that only takes actions to prove the intent. Period. This is going forth against one's accusers without fear, and rather knowing you are up to the task at hand. This is going forth with eyes and ears availed to the singing praise of others and helping those who need praise. Study to shew thyself approved and unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. That's all I'm doing, correcting records. Your records are in error. I'm not a United States citizen. I'm not a resident. I've never registered to vote. I'm not qualified to serve on jury duty. Yet you don't want to pay attention to the errors in the record that are integral to the national security. And that tells me you don't give a fuck about the national security. You're doing just your job. You fucking Hitler's willing executioners. You babbling, insane idiots. King James Version, Titus 3:8. This is a faithful saying, and these things I will, that thou affirm constantly, that they which have believed in God might be careful to maintain good works. These are good and profitable unto men. As to the matters at hand being jury duty, we are not of a volunteer to judge another man. I'm not here to judge any man. I'm here to judge the record. The record is in error. I don't give a fuck what you want to do with it. You're not going to do it and use it against me. As to equity and the estate of Keith Little, it is a matter of correction of the records. First, we must admit our own errors in entering false data elements. This is paramount, people. You cannot say they are the only ones to blame. You have to admit your own fault in it. In entering those data elements in the administrative agencies, we have discovered we have placed liabilities on the public record. If we had known this before, we certainly would not have entered them in the manner that we did. Please accept our sincere apologies for previous accidents as we repent and will not do so again. Now that we have the knowing and the effects. We meant no harm and wish to reconcile the records to be able to go forth appropriately in the future. Equity acts in personam. Equity imputes an intent to fulfill an obligation. Equity regards as done what ought to be done. These errors happened over many years, and this says that this reconciliation will not happen overnight. In that, one who seeks equity must do equity. Our only intent is to correct that which is wrong, the record. Equity does not require an idle gesture. Equity aids the vigilant and not those who slumber on their rights. You have to step up, folks. You cannot let somebody else do this for you. Quit volunteering to let somebody else do it for you. That is your mistake. That is what's wrong. You have to take responsibility. We expect to learn more as we work together to bring an accord that will satisfy all parties involved. Equity is a sort of equality. Equity will not suffer a wrong to be without a remedy. 28 USC 2002-01 speaks of creation of remedy. That's the actual title of that code. 28 USC 2201, creation of remedy. Though we do not make any accusations other than errors, there may exist records of events that may be deemed wrongful violations. In that, we can only give directions as to what is ours to take up as responsibilities. Equity delights to do justice and not by halves. This means you have to do your job. And as you do your job, it's making them do their job. You cannot be slacking on your job and allow them to be slacking on their job. If you are diligent in your job, you have to tell them they cannot slack in theirs. And you have to be forceful about it. You do not have to be peaceful and silent and just say, oh, well, they just may not know what they do. You have to inform them that what they're doing is wrong. You have to inform them of the consequences of those wrongs and give them the opportunity to fix their errors. As the record reflects many various cases of differing jurisdictions and is evidence of expense and administrative fees, the public liability, that could have been averted. Again, our apologies for voluntarily presuming we are supposed to do so. In this, our attempt to reconcile those records is to help sustain the state's budget in the future to prevent such liabilities. So while I'm expressing this, they're trying to place a liability on the public record. They're trying to force a public liability where there is none. As I showed you in the bench warrant thing, the issue for show to cause and all that, there is no finances. There was no bond set. There's no bond found. There was no long title, no citation, nothing. And now they placed a liability on the public record and they're trying to enforce it. This is fucking insanity. He who comes into equity must come with clean hands. Equity will take jurisdiction to avoid a multiplicity of suits. Equity will not assist a volunteer. You have to be diligent. You have to make it worth it. You have to put your value into it. You have to know the value that's there and stand firm on it. It is our comprehension that upon filing the SS5 form, an individual is then subjected to state and federal laws for acquisition regulations. This is that public liability. In order for them to acquire public to put in the name of the state, they have to go through a process. That process has an expense. The expense is the paperwork to make sure that it's all recorded accordingly. Okay? This is why they have the Paperwork Reduction Act and the Plain Writing Act. It has to be plain writing and not confusing and obfuscating, ambiguous and all that. Yet that's exactly what they're doing. Creating all this paperwork that's unnecessary and confusing, and they can't even tell it by themselves. My God, it said no long title, yet it said long title. Said long title. And then it said no long title found. It said bonds, no bonds found. So they set a bond. Yet there's no finances. How is this shit? Okay. Again, had we known some certain things that we are now aware of, we would not have filed to have our estate administrated by the state. That's what you do when you fill out that SS Form 5. You're filling out a form to have the state administer the estate. And you are acting as the trustee assigned by them to do so, as if though you are a government employee. When you fill out that SS5, it clearly becomes relevant that you are, according to the Social Security Act, a Medicare qualified government employee. Go apply for disability at the Social Security office and ask them for a report on the interview. On that report, there's going to be an MQGE. Ask them what that acronym stands for. They will tell you it stands for Medicare Qualified Government Employee. Really? So you're posing that I'm a government employee and that I can't resign and dismiss it. See, when you go tell them you want to quit the record of SS5, you no longer want to be involved in the Social Security. They say you can't. You can't do that. Yet they qualify you as a Medicare qualified government employee. So basically what they're saying is you cannot just quit government employment. Well, are you truly a government employee or not? Did you take an oath of office? Do you have such a license to be such? If not, then that entire record is false. Again, just like a United States resident or citizen, if you weren't born in the United States, because there's no record of it, because there's no birth registration in the United States, and it's merely a presumption so that they can say that you were conferred a nationality of United States citizenship when there is no nation known as the United States. There is no nation known as the United States, folks. That is a corporation. Therefore, there is no such nationality. Get over it. So, where equities are equal, the law will prevail. Equity follows the law. Equity will not complete an imperfect gift. So the conference of a nationality that had you believing that you were a United States citizen based upon Medicare qualified government employment is false. It is my comprehension that the county registrar is holder of a document of title that evidences the estate transfer from the mother of Keith Little as an informant. That's that real property that remains in the public record that says somehow you're part of the military defense. And for national security purposes, they have to keep track of you so you're not trading with an enemy. That's what it's about. This document of title with the given name Keith and family name Little, Carnarty by birthright, is real property that actually belongs to the equitable title holder. This is a document meant for yourself. You are meant to have that document because it's a conveyance of your mother. The conveyance of your mother to yourself, not to somebody else. Your mother would never give you up. And your mother certainly wouldn't give something that belongs to you to somebody else. This is the inheritance. This is the material things in this world that are known as real property. That is that is what you're supposed to inherit. And it actually is 3 words: in her it. Read it. Your inheritance is in her. Your legacy, the story, is in him. That's his story. The legacy is about the father's seed. The inheritance is about the material gain gotten or begotten through the mother. Before he formed you in her belly, he knew you. He wrote his story on your heart. That's the seed that mom got from the man that she copulated with. Okay? As the intended legacy heir of equitable title, that legal title is real property that actually belongs to Keith. This legal title is established upon enumeration at birth, wherein the state creates a state vital statistic jurisdiction for each individual born in the state. So upon the creation of state vital statistics jurisdiction for the individual born in the state, there is a birth registration in the state. There is not one in the United States. So you cannot be born in the United States. The United States is located in Washington, D.C. It is a corporate entity only and is a matter of records only. The determination is the creation of a state resident for income tax purposes. Equity regards the beneficiary as the true owner. Equity abhors a forfeiture. Equity will not allow a statute to be used as a cloak for fraud. Hold on, folks. I'll be right back. I wish it would do this.
Don't let me tell you what to do.
You fall, it's on you. Okay, back at it. It is imperative that we comprehend that this is all in trust. Again, we apologize for acting, performing, functioning as if we were a trustee of the public trust and able to place liabilities on the ledgers thereof. Had we known how trust operates and the details therein that are the guides and principles of law, we would have never entered the data elements we did. Equity will not allow a trust to fail for want of a trustee. We hereby place in these communications our intent to release liabilities in full acquittance and discharge in the interest of the United States, for the account of the United States, and for the person making the same, so that no person shall be held liable in any court. Matthew 15, or King James Version of the Bible, Matthew 18, verse 15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. We are willing to do what it takes in these private matters to fulfill our obligations, so long as they remain private from this day forward. We appreciate this opportunity to come to peaceful terms after all these years of babble and idiocy. Thank you. And again, we apologize. So, again, as we opened up with our own admittance of errors, we closed again with apologies for our errors. We're not accusing them of anything yet. What we're doing is pointing out the errors and showing that they're doing things wrong. That's it. We're not going to make any accusations of criminal fraud or anything like that yet. That will become blatant as the record shows. So, after I sent them that, they sent me this nice little notice. And you notice it comes from Blackhawk County District Court. And notice that number above that title again. That's something I know nothing about. So it starts out with an enumeration telling me there's a separate accounting going on. There's a different accounting going on. That doesn't match any number I have so far. So, and again, you see it's all upper caps. So they're talking about the United States person. Juror number 180. They've already got me on the account as a juror. So they've already placed me in an accounting. That's that juror account. That's that county roll account. So we're going to be speaking to the county board of directors, which would include the tax commissioner and everybody, the county attorney, the county sheriff, the whole 9 yards. We're going to be shouting out to everybody. It says, this letter is in regard to request. There was no request. Again, it was blatant. You got false information here. I'm not a United States citizen. I'm not a resident. I've never registered to vote. Requirements to be on jury duty. You can't just go picking people off the street and say, hey, I don't care who you are. You might be an enemy, but I don't care. You're going to serve on our jury duty. That's not the way it works. That's the importance of the identification. Okay? And by them saying that I am a United States citizen and that I am a resident of the state of Iowa, by putting me on this jury roll, they better be able to prove it, and they can't. No income. That's the resident determination for the state of Iowa, income tax purposes. Under federal code, it says no person shall reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board, not by some yahoo at a local courthouse. The board being the Secretary of Commerce as the executive chair and the Secretary of Treasury. Please be advised, your request has been denied by the district court. Again, I'm not making a request. I'm telling you, you're in error. Please follow any reporting instructions. Excuse me, report implies that I am exporting one thing and importing it into something else. I am not an exporter importer. Don't you get it? Please follow any reporting instructions detailed on your original jury summons postcard. It's not mine. It's yours. I sent it back, which may direct prospective jurors. Now you're telling me it's a prospective. You placed it up here as juror, and now it's a prospective juror. No, that's not the way it works. You can't claim that I am a juror before you put the questions to me. See the problem with their English and their capability of using English? We've grown up in this English education, public education system that teaches us to be fucking babbling idiots. Which may direct prospective jurors to call a designated phone number and listen to a voice recording during a specified time period. I don't care what it's directing me. I ain't going to hear you. Matthew 18, verse 15. If he hears you, you got to hear me first. I'm the one telling you you're in error. If you don't hear me, then how am I supposed to communicate with you, you babbling fucks? Excuse my language today, folks. I just find it so fucking ridiculous that we're full-grown adults and they sit there and placate that they're just doing their job and can't even fucking read. So, my statement of facts is the next one. So let's get that one up. What the hell? Okay. There we got it. So, statement of facts. And as you see, there's no epoch number on here or anything because this is just an attachment that I attach with my responsive notice. I just attached this one to it. It says Keith Orland Little and all other derivatives in any grammar style is not in fact a United States citizen. An impossibility with no birth registration in the United States. Keith Orland Little and all other derivatives in any grammar style is not in fact a resident of the state of Iowa. An impossibility with no income and no obligation to work in person. And what I say here is in person is there's no contract. I have no ID. I have no contract that has my person in it to say that I'm providing personal services as a trustee for the public trust. It's not there. Keith Orland Little has never registered to vote. Keith Orland Little has no state ID. In order to serve on a jury duty, you have to show them an ID. Keith Orland Little has no state driver's license. Whether that ID be a state ID or a driver's license, either one, they are both commercial identifications to perform commercially in person for obligations on income. King James Version of the Bible, John 8:14 through 20. Jesus answered and said unto them, though I bear record of myself, yet my record is true. For I know whence I came, whither I go, but ye cannot tell whence I came and whither I go. That's that birth certificate. That's why they need that birth certificate, so they can say whither you came and whither you go. That's that date and time. There is no date and time in heaven. Ye judge after the flesh. I judge no man. And yet, if I judge, my judgment is true. It's because I'm judging the record before it being false. For I am not alone, but I and the Father that sent me, me and the conscience that I have, that I'm supposed to be doing things carefully to maintain that I don't harm another man. It is also written in your law that the testimony of 2 men is true. I am one that bears witness of myself, my yea be yea, and my nay be nay, and of the Father that sent me beareth witness of me. If you know my Father, then you know me. If you don't know my Father, then you don't know me. Then said they unto him, where is thy Father? Jesus answered, because they showed him in questioning their doubt. He said, ye neither know me nor my Father. If ye had known me, ye should have known my Father. In other words, had they recognized him for who he was, another man, ye are gods, and we are supposed to treat each other as such, then they would have recognized the image and likeness of their own self and Jesus. That we are not twins, triplets, quadruplets looking identically the same, but there is an image and likeness that should bring about a fairness of recognition that we shouldn't be doing the things that we're doing to each other as we are. These words spake Jesus into the treasury. These words spake Jesus in the treasury as he taught in the temple, and no man laid hands on him, for his hour was not yet to come. Down at the bottom it says, I never entered a firm name into any records. I never used the Social Security number as an obligor number. Social Security number is specifically styled with 2 dashes. This is telling them that I recognize certain things on the record that they've done. Things that they've done that they shouldn't, such as convert the last name to a firm name and the Social Security number to an obligor number. All these years in and out of these courts, I've never known until I got that financial index that they were using me as a firm. In other words, counting me as an investor. That's known as an investment firm. They're saying I'm the investor. Sorry, that would be false. That's false through and through. So the next thing is the graphs. Let me show you the graphs there. I already gave you the statement of separation, statement of facts. That's the last one. So it's going to be the charts and then the certiorari. So let's look up vital records and vital statistics in the United States. And we're going to stop sharing that to share this. And this is something I went over in a video here not too long ago. I've gone over it a couple times actually. But this is vital records and vital statistics in the United States. Uses, users, systems, and sources of revenue. Remember I told you a healthy, a strong nation is a healthy nation. A healthy nation is an intelligent nation. If a nation is dumb, it can't maintain its health, and therefore it can't maintain its strength. When we get to the birth enumeration, This is a chart. It says vital records and vital statistics in the United States. Uses, systems, and sources of revenue. Revenue, because they're going to take it from one venue outside of everything. The prenatal obstetrician that sees mom when she finds out she's conceiving, she finds out she's pregnant. They're going to keep track of that pregnancy. They're going to take records. They're going to have medical examinations and ultrasounds and this and that, and they're going to keep track. And then when she's ready to go into labor, she's going to go into the hospital, a commercial venue, to conduct her work. She's going to provide personal services for the hospital. Okay. This is all obfuscation of a natural bearing of your legacy heirs. Notice there's no money on this side. It doesn't get to money until it gets to the state health department's vital records office. And notice it shows money coming in from the birth certificate. See, the birth certificate has an arrow going here to the local registrar. The vital records goes to the local registrar, and that's that statement of live birth from the hospital. Okay. Now that local registrar, he's going to keep track of all the accounting of the enumeration birth registration system and the vital records system. That's why those two are in yellow. Yellow, yellow, and yellow, local registrar. And notice it's going in to the local county. From the birth certificate, it goes in. From the birth certificate, it goes in to the vital records. Federal government and state government puts money in. They call it an investment. They say they're investing, but all the value comes from the birth certificate. These guys aren't putting any value into anything. They get to use that birth certificate. Uses, users, systems, and sources of revenue. They get to use it to revenue into something else for their needs. So the next one, current death registration process for estate vital records. Notice again, all the money stays in the state and the national level. It never seems to come back to the family or the informant. Never. This is the problem. It shouldn't be in the state and national. This is causing debts. If you're truly a creditor under the nation, then it remains in the family, and you issue documentation of credit related to the assets. It's known as collateral. So let's take a look at that final document here. Certiorari. Okay. Again, this is going to have this. The one I have has the letterhead on it, whereas this one's in my file, so it's just got the epoch date or epoch number, and it says Keith of the family Little comes Key Temet, Key Tam, amicus curiae, certiorari to prevent future and further and future harm, loss, injury, and to better sustain budgets. That's what the Key Temet means. It's a warning that there are future harms coming. We're trying to stop that. Key Tam means in the name of, as a friend of, amicus curiae. To prevent future harm to the United States, as a friend of the court, we present heirs to prevent further and future harm, loss, injury, and to better sustain the budgets. Intent to correct statistical record as a matter of redress for misidentifications discovered. Federal question as a matter of federal removal as to diversity of citizenship. 22 CFR 72.22, release of personal estate to legal representative. This is under protection and welfare of Americans, their property and estates, not United States citizens and residents. The distinct difference. Equity regards the beneficiary as the true owner. Order for writ of mandamus, writ of correction. In other words, I'm directing the Supreme Court of the state of Iowa in the interest of the United States and for the account of the United States as a friend of the court to order a writ of mandamus to the local court, to the lower court, that they are inferior to the Superior Court of Iowa, and that mentioning that they are committing fraudulent actions in error, that they have to correct themselves. Removal to Court of Equity. Equity imputes an intent to fulfill an obligation. Our obligation, first and foremost, is that of truth. I think we can all agree on that. That's why I used our. Our obligation, first and foremost, is that of truth. This is legal notice to move these matters to a court of equity as the claim is now made on all real and personal effects of Keith Little and all derivatives and priorities of that estate. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spake, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast. The Lord bringeth the counsel of the heathen to naught. He maketh the devices of the people of none effect. It is his will that I constantly affirm that he who hath believed in God be careful to maintain good works as we share our daily bread. References: Medicare and Medicaid program integrity provisions. Remember, I said that record says that we're Medicare qualified government employees. The integrity of the record by that alone is in error. 42 U.S. Code 290 DD-2, confidentiality of records. They are trying to use that record against myself by pulling me into public, violating that very confidentiality. 43 CFR 2.226, assuring integrity of records. 33 CFR 1008.6. These are codes of federal regulations, not just codifications in the U.S. Code, but the CFR regulations. They are the enforcement, assuring integrity of records. Twice stated. 26 U.S. Code 1031 is a tax code in reference to exchange of real property held for productive use or investment. That's that statement of live birth that the county registrar is holding as evidence of income, and yet they're the ones that are using it. They're the ones that are making the income. They're the ones that are trying to force me into this public venue to provide for the circulation of that $350 bond, not me. The difference is exchange of real property held for productive use or investment is outside of the United States. So they are creating a debt posed against me outside of the United States via the state, thereby taking interest of the debt and not the United States. This is why I mentioned in the interest of the United States and for the account of the United States, because the state is creating a false record at this point. And at the time that I die, I will not be able to stand up and fend against it, because then it will be entered into the National Archives as is. I don't want it entered into the National Archives as is, because it's got confidential information that needs to be removed. It can remain for its historical value as far as a population statistic of a one person, but to attach Keith Little as a legal name and expose the Keith of the benefactor of the family of Little or Conrady, either one, is a malfeasance of trust. To expose the beneficiary is malfeasance of trust. So let's get back into it. Definitions: ambiguously implied, shall be contested. This one from Black's Law, 4th edition, is relations to personal property, goods, worldly substance. If the term is used simpliciter, as in a gift of all my effects, it will carry the whole personal estate, unless an intention appears to the contrary. Unless an intention appears to the contrary. A statement of live birth is the beginnings of the gifting of a nationality. It was a gifting in exchange. Mom gifted it to the county registrar to hold for the beneficiary, and that was a mistake. That documentation should have been put in private holding until the age of 18, when that minor could then determine for themselves if they wanted to take upon that investment of personage created by the state, or if he would create his own. The meaning of the term is determined by the context and surrounding of the circumstances. So the context and surrounding of the circumstances is Mom certainly wasn't acting as a trustee when she went into that hospital, and the hospital was acting as a trustee, and Mom was taking the benefits of the services provided. Therefore, she was a benefactor. This is pure and simple. Public service is that of a public trust. So in that trust, as expressed by the instrument signed, the words real and personal effects will embrace the whole estate. This is why I urge everybody, if you're going to be doing those UCCs and putting down property, I suggest you keep the property private as well, and just put down all real and personal effects. A list can be had in escrow. You don't put those kind of things in public, you fucking idiots. Where equities are equal, first in time is first in line. Before he formed me in the belly, he knew me. Ask him about equity. Receipt, again from Black's Law, 4th, written acknowledgement of the receipt of money or a thing of value without containing affirmative obligation upon either party to it. A mere admission of fact in writing. And being a mere acknowledgement of payment is subject to parole, explanation, or contradiction. And being a mere acknowledgement of payment, not that they were paid, it's acknowledgement of payment, the mentality to pay. Okay? Understand the language. Is subject to parole, explanation, or contradiction. I am giving them a parole explanation that there are contradictions that are proving to be errors. I contradicted myself in entering information, and I didn't realize that until I came upon this knowledge. Now that I have the knowledge, I can show you my own contradictions, and you are not accepting it. You have to. My yea is my yea. My nay is my nay. And I can explain exactly why it's not. why that person is not a United States citizen. I can explain exactly why that person is not a state resident. I can show you exactly that there has never been a voter registration. If you show me that record and say that there was, I will claim it to be false to the day I die. I have never registered to vote. I have claimed to be a United States citizen. I have claimed to be born in the United States. I have claimed to be a resident of the state of Iowa. However, again, upon my research and finding different and otherwise, the contradictions say that I am not, and therefore I am not. So we continue on. Let's see. Act of receiving, also the fact of receiving or being received, that which is received, that which comes in distinction from that which is expended, paid out, sent away, and the like. So in their service, they obtained service through the proper servicer. However, the servicer never completed the transaction because there was no receipt. Even though the servicer may have dropped it in somebody's mailbox, it was never properly received by the proper person. The professional person. I am not a professional. I can no longer profess lies. I must profess truth. In old practice, it was an admission of a party to defend a suit, as of a wife on default of the husband in certain cases. In other words, if the husband was away and they placed a charge against the family, the wife could step in and say, well, I will defend the suit for him. Or the eldest son could do the same thing. This is the importance of a wedlock, folks. They cannot make they cannot make any accusation and take a man away from his wife. Vice versa, take a wife away from her man. Vice versa, take a man from his family and children. You have to have, in modern day, an equitable remedy. You cannot destroy a family by taking the head of the household for a criminal offense and then watching the family just fall apart. That's the reason they merged equity with common law. There was no remedy in common law to help sustain a family if a man committed murder and was sent away to prison for life. Then the family would fall. You have to be able to provide a contractual nexus for a servitude, an indentured servitude, even if it is for the rest of that man's life. You can't just take him away and say he can't make money for his family. You still have to be able to allow him to make money for his family and still pay his debt to society. By putting him away in a cell and locking him up where he has absolutely nothing to do, and the state is placating that they are paying for him and therefore take it from the taxpayers, is not only ruining the family that they're taking him from, but ruining the prosperity of the rest of society by placing it on them. It's a very heinous system, and it does not work. 49 CFR 130.5, person means an individual, firm. And this is why I keep telling you people, do your research, find out what this shit means. They are using you as a firm in this definition, 49 CFR 130.5, which happens to be in the transportation code. And it's for trafficking in person, which means commercial contracting in person. Traffic, transportation, and trade all mean commerce. Commerce means contracting in person. Corporation, partnership, association, state, municipality, commission, or political subdivision of a state, or any interstate body, as well as a department, agency, or instrumentality of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of the federal government. This definition includes railroads. Where is the administration? It says executive, legislative, or judicial branch of the federal government. Yet these states operate all on administration. They have no authority to be using the firm name. None whatsoever. Explanatory statement in brief. Keith, born of the family camaraderie and later legally adopted as part of the family little, does hereby declare his free will act and deed to correct that which he committed to in error. Keith does repent and acknowledges that he will no longer enter data elements into the public record that cause liabilities. Full acquittance and discharge is to be had as effect of intent. Full acquittance and discharge is to be had as effect of intent. Don't know why my mouse is not wanting to work today. Full acquittance for the third time and discharge is to be had as effect and intent. Keith is in receipt of greater truth that will show the weak integrity of the record. Due to the miscomprehensions of continuous and repeated exposure to the same events, Keith has caused said liability of which Keith had no expectation or intent to do so. One who seeks equity must do equity. Equity abhors a forfeiture. Equity delights to do injustice and not by halves. And where equities are equal, the law will prevail. Where equities are equal, the first in time shall prevail. Recognize what is in your sight, and that which is hidden from you will become plain to you. For there is nothing hidden which will not become manifest. Equity will not suffer a wrong to be without a remedy. You have to do your research. You have to quit volunteering to let everybody else do what they tell you they're going to do because they know their job. You have to start learning this stuff for yourself. Otherwise, they're going to keep telling you, I'm just doing my job. And there's not a damn thing you're going to be able to do about it. The only thing you can do about this stuff is start learning to do this shit yourself. You study to shew thyself worthy and approved so that you can be careful to maintain those good works. I fear not, for he has redeemed me. He has called me by thy name. I am his. One shall say, I am the Lord's, and another shall call himself by the name of Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Lord, and surname himself by the name of Israel. Equity regards as done what ought be done. Equity acts in personam. Having studied to shew thyself approved, Keith has discovered that he cannot perform for you in person except to bring clarity in equity with greater truths. Keith serves the Almighty God already as the living soul. This is our first equality. Our obligation is a force majeure. Equity is a sort of equality. Equity does not require an idle gesture. He who comes into equity must come with clean hands. Integrity of the record, as Keith comprehends, is imperative as to the historical value. This value is obfuscated by legal terms and is in egregious error in the instance of Keith Little. As the origin of the legal name is an event founded upon natural bearing of legacy heirs, a man, discharged of his mother's waters, that gives rise a living soul. God formed man of the dust of the ground, and when he breathed the breath of life into his nostrils, man became a living soul. This legal event is merely the conference of a nationality that does not in fact exist as a nation, but rather a mere corporation. Equity follows the law. You call it a nationality, conference of a United States citizenship when it's actually a corporation. That is an error. There is no way in hell it can be a nationality and that you can claim it's a conference of a nationality if it's stated in 28 USC 3002 subsection 15 that the United States is not a federal government but a federal corporation. Equity will not, or equity follows the law. Equity will not complete that imperfect gift. Where equities are equal, the law will prevail. Between equal equities, the first in order of time shall prevail. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. The words that were written down on that paper after you were cast from your mother's womb are in error. Very simple. This event did establish a state vital statistics jurisdiction as well as a burial trust under Iowa code. Equity will not allow a statute to be used as a cloak for fraud. It established a burial trust through a state's vital statistics jurisdiction that then implied that we are subject to the public trust. This is in fact false. Equity will not allow a trust to fail for want of a trustee. Equity regards the beneficiary as the true owner. Where Iowa code states in plain writing, resident determination is for income tax purposes, and Keith has not had any income for over 7 years and is careful to maintain good works, constantly affirming the will of our Father which art in heaven. For he's no respecter of persons. Where federal statutes state in plain writing that no person shall be allowed to reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. And Keith does again repent for voluntarily entering data elements into the public record that did in the past cause errors and remains in error today and will continue to cause harm, loss, and injury if not corrected. Where Keith does now comprehend that the disposition of the past has been a detriment to himself and cause for others to continue in the presumption of facts presented. In the facts presented, does come forth in repentance and forgiveness to make all things new, owing no man anything but to love one another. Where Keith is a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Where Keith hereby accepts the obligation to continue forth to do what is needed to correct all records as a matter of redress with Homeland Security for these misidentifications as the only first-hand witness that can do so. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. This is your full faith and credit. You are the creditor under the nation, and everything you do has to be in your full faith. You cannot do it just blatantly thinking, well, somebody will figure it out. That's what's been causing the harm for the last 57 years in my life. In my instance, it belongs to me for not learning what I should have learned. It is simple stuff. And again, it's not just my fault. The public education system is at fault. The taxation system is at fault. The government is at fault. You're at fault. We're all at fault because it's all stuff that we should be able to see as full-grown boys and girls and say, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong. We have to do something about it. Instead, we've been placating that, yeah, there's something wrong, but there's nothing we can do about it. When in fact, it is a matter of just setting things right yourself in your own life. The more people that do this, the more people will grow up seeing this and knowing what is right and knowing that when something's wrong, they got to do something about it to make it right. Instead, we've been living for many, many, many years just saying, well, that's just the way it is. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be living righteously. So anyway, morning, bro. I got to read this one. Like you guys know, I'm on the Postal Service. That's your true judicial docket. And if there is a debt being levied, that's your connection to the general ledger. And if there's an out of balance account, then they have 3 days. Once you give them notice of a narrowcast accounting report, that they have 3 days to reconcile it, research and reconcile it with the general ledger. That's the federal government, not the state administrative ledger. So, morning, bro. I'm sending all my bills to the local post office address. Why? Because the post will stop delivery status by making the mail after 2 months not delivered. No judgment arises. See, it has to be deliverable. It has to be a receipt. So think about this stuff. And I want to take a moment to, before I head out, it's been almost 2 hours. And I want to thank everybody for your attention. I want to thank you for your support. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And there are PayPal links down below for anybody that would care to share some love. It's always appreciated. Every little bit counts. And I certainly do need it. I don't get many donations, but I put in 7 years, well over 20,000 hours of research to do this stuff. So I hope you're paying attention and realizing that this stuff is, it does take a lot of work, but that's our true responsibility, is to be careful to maintain the good works that are profitable unto man, instead of just saying, oh, well, that's just the way it is. We get to run around causing harm to each other, and next time they arrest me, I'll just have to put up with it. That's not the way it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to do your due diligence, be intelligent people, study to shew yourself worthy and approved of him, not of some damn administrative court. I don't give a fuck about them. Do you? So if you really cared about me, maybe drop something in PayPal rather than pay that damn fine that's facetious and bullshit. Educate yourself. Learn that that's all bullshit. You cannot make a payment, not the way they're wanting you to. You cannot pay money in the way you think. Again, legal tender is negotiable instruments. So if you're going to legally tender something, you have to draw something up and sign it. If you do sign it, I urge you, sign it without recourse, not your name. Think about this stuff, folks. And again, remember, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. So may God bless you and have a good day. We'll see everybody next time. Bye.